Brodes Media.
Well, that was extremely disappointing as the Phillies get swept in the two-game series against the New York Yankees on the road. They had plenty of chances. There's nobody to blame but themselves. 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position. Walked 11 times early on. 2 men on, 1 out. Not enough runs scored. I know Gene Segura squared up Woj on the first pitch of the game, and then Bryce Harper just a little bit later gets a knock down the right field side, and here's JT Realmuto going from first to home. So you're up 2-0, but I alluded to having 2 guys on with 1 out. In the third inning, they had Bryce on third base, not able to knock him in. In the 6th inning, you had men on second and third base. Nope. They're clearly struggling in the timely hit situation, even when they finally exploded in the 8th inning. Luckily, Torreyes, you put the ball in play, but Torreyes, geez, I apologize. Not Torreyes. Gleyber Torres makes an error. 4 walks, 1 error, 1 hit. That was the inning that made you pop the most because of Luke Williams. And oh, by the way, you left the bases loaded, Andrew McCutchen did, and it's so bizarre to me to be so damn aggressive when you know that their pitcher cannot throw a damn strike. This guy was all over the place. Nelson's getting abused and annihilated and throwing pitches 5 feet in front of the plate. That's bouncing past Gary Sanchez to tie the game up originally. So I understand Andrew McCutchen has been a hot hitter, and he's been seeing the baseball very well as of late and has been able to drive the baseball very smoothly. And that was a drivable pitch. I see that. I recognize that. At the same time, though, awareness. At the same time, though, understanding the situation. I don't know. I mean, I'm watching Nelson up there basically explode and horrendous, and you got Yankees fans freaking the hell out on Twitter screaming at Boone because it's not as if he had anybody available after him. They were just going, hey, we don't care what happens. We don't care how many runs he gives up. We're just going to keep going with Nelson. Nobody's getting prepared. Nobody's getting ready. Nobody's getting up for him. Let's just keep throwing him out there and see what happens. So I'm like, come on, right? It's a hard spot. I get it. It's not an easy decision. If the pitch is there, the pitch is there. You can look back to yesterday's game when Rhys Hoskins and Didi Gregorius both had chances to deliver in a big moment. Rhys got a little pool happy, and Ricky Bo did a fantastic job of breaking down the film on the pregame show. I caught that. But Didi let one go right down the pipe, and it's like, what are you looking for? So, I get it's kind of contradicting, but at some degree, at some point, when you see that the opposing pitcher has no command, is completely lost, throwing wild pitches to tie the baseball game, that has to be recognized. It has to be brought in. That data has to be digested. Tough spot for them. You knew that was going to come back to bite them, though. You absolutely did. In that 8th inning, when they came out not on top and it was just a tied game, while I'm proud that they at least tied it when they were down 5-2, there was more meat on the bones. And you can go through all the innings, how many damn meat was left on the bones. You pitched a bullpen game. Spencer Howard arguably looked the best he's ever looked, and that still disgusts me because he went 3 innings. Here we are getting stoked and all pumped up for 3 innings from your number 1 pitching prospect. It's an embarrassment is what it is. And in the 3rd, he worked out of a walk and a hit batter. And here we are celebrating down Broad Street as if you just found the next Garrett Cole or the next Chris Sale in his prime. It's sad that that's where we are. But he did fine. For what it is, he did fine. He utilized some of his pitches very well. You did see a nasty changeup in there. Executing with the slider as well. You saw some different things out of Spencer Howard. With the fastball, he got Giancarlo Stanton with a beauty right down the dick on an 0-2 count. That was a blistering fastball. He ended up with 2 strikeouts, only allowed 1 hit, 0 earned runs, of course. Your bullpen, while Hector Neris exploded a bit, and while who ended up having, Sanchez. Yeah, Sanchez. He was a nightmare as well. Yeah, think about it. in a bullpen game with this bullpen on this night. Now, I'm scared for what happens with Matt Moore against the Braves, considering you basically have nobody available. It's going to be thin. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very hard, especially because Matt Moore can't go deep. My man does not go deep, so he's going to have to figure it the fuck out, or this team is absolutely screwed for this next outing. But the bullpen was not the problem today. Even though Neris struggled, Odor with that bomb. Holy hell. Now, Stanton, prior to that, put a ball in play. There was a shift happening. Gene Segura could not make it back to his original spot to make the play. But I love this. Every time the shift bones you, the shift sucks. The shift's brutal. The shift's pathetic. Every single time it makes a play and it gets you a double play or it gets you an easy out, nobody ever mentions how smart it was to shift your players in the right spot. It benefits you more than it hurts you, but you only mention it when it hurts you. It's just extremely laughable. Sticking with the bullpen real quick, though, Brogdon went 2 innings, and I thought he was very successful in those moments. Bradley, 1 1/3. It's unfortunate that Brad Miller was out there in right field, and he had one of the worst played balls I've ever seen in the history of Major League Baseball. It's a joke, and that's what we deal with. We deal with shooting yourself in the foot. Now, somehow, some way, Ranger Suarez comes in and does his job. You know, you get a play in the infield. Now, he wasn't able to do it in the 10th inning, but in the 9th, when you have that bizarre play out there in right field and it's so deflating and it's so crushing and it eats you alive as a team, you gotta look yourself in the mirror in that moment and say, I got this! And Ranger did in the 9th. I was pleasantly surprised. I said that when you go from a blown save, one of my big things is not so much, okay, you blew the save. It's what's next? Do you let that defeat you? Is that who you are now for the recent time? Or are you going to deliver? And in the 9th, in a big spot, he did. Ground ball in the infield, goes home to get an out, and then a pop-up to Gene Segura in the shallow part of the outfield. Got him out of the jam. Now, the 10th, a little tough. Man on second, butt him over to third, and then a ball that got crushed over Brad Miller's head. It's like you can only ask Ranger Suarez to do so much. He got one out of one big-time moment. It's like I'm not very disappointed in Ranger Suarez by any means. You can get on Joe Girardi for the Phillies part of the 10th inning when, look, I'm kind of conflicted on this one. So they used Ronald Torreyes to bunt Brad Miller over to third base, and he almost got picked off at second base. Could you imagine if he went from that mishap in the field to getting picked off in extra innings at second base behind him? That would have been just a flat-out disaster. But knowing this Phillies team, it's probably a real possibility that something like that happens because, well, this team just loses in the most pathetic ways possible. When you bunt Torreyes over, though, what's next? It's Luke Williams going up against Chapman. Is that the greatest option in the world? Is that really what you're looking for? Not really. I mean, Torreyes has been one of your best hitters so far this season, one of your most consistent hitters. Do you give him an opportunity to try and knock in Brad Miller from second base? He's still in scoring position, so give him a chance to swing the bat instead of just moving Brad Miller to third and giving yourself an out so Luke Williams can come up to bat. It's not as if your top dog is there. Now, granted, you did have a big moment from Luke Williams earlier in the game, but not against Chapman. So I think you can definitely question that decision. And another thing that pisses me off is in the 9th, Rhys Hoskins gets aboard. And at this point, there was one out with Rhys Hoskins on first base. And he ends up getting picked off. And, the discussion was he told to just go on the first move? And I love how people on Twitter are trying to inform me how baseball works when you're trying to steal against a lefty. I understand how the game works. I understand that you go and, you fly as soon as you see the leg go up. Like, I understand the game of baseball. But there's also instincts in play. Whether Rhys was told to go or not to go, you still have duties when you're on the bases. You still need to properly assess what's going on. And the way I will describe this is, one of my buddies who I actually respect a lot when it comes to the sport of baseball, He played in college. He now coaches D2 NCAA. So he is involved in the game. And one of the things he said is he didn't mind it. And he said, Miller, you got the lefty-lefty, and you are going on leg lift. Chapman rarely throws over, and him throwing over with Hoskins on first is actually mind-blowing. Just happened to be the perfect storm for the Yankees. See, I disagree, though. If you believe it's crazy that he went to first base and he tried to pick him off, and you're saying that's so bizarre and that's so out there, that's because Reese is doing something wrong at that point. If that's something that he never does and then he eventually does it randomly, he just randomly decided to do it, no, there was clearly an indication. There was clearly a tell, which, look, it's not, Reese, just run whenever you want to run. You still have a job to do. You have to strategically do it. Even though he was informed to go, and I get it, you're told to go when he lifts his leg, but you can't be stupid about it. You can't get picked off from behind like that. Obviously, you did not do it good enough, and there is still a job to do if you're Rhys Hoskins, if you were told to go. So he didn't do it sharply enough. He did not do it smooth enough, and I can't take Rhys Hoskins out of fault. He is part of the problem in that moment. Now, do I love the call originally to send him? No, he's a slow-ass fucking runner, and I don't love it. No, I don't love it. I don't love it. But I can't not blame the player. He got picked off. There's ways to do it where you don't get picked off. Do that way. You clearly indicated something was up. And they got you out with the blink of an eye. It's stupid baseball. This team plays stupid baseball. Brad Miller out in right field. Rhys Hoskins getting picked off, even though Joe or whoever's in the dugout is informing him to do it. It's all part of it. It's on whoever makes that call. It's on Rhys Hoskins. Earlier in the game, Jankowski ends up slipping out in center field, which Brett Gardner scores from first. He goes from first to home in that moment. That's sloppy. Neris sloppy. I mean, you could just go around the board and say that, yeah, I mean, it's a problem when you consistently hurt yourself. Now, the Yankees were doing the same thing, though. I mentioned what Torres did to allow that eighth inning to really go down and to give the Phillies a chance to begin with. It all happened because of an error. And how many times have we picked on the Phillies, whether it's Bohm or whether it's Didi Gregorius or whether it's Rhys Hoskins, who fail miserably on the defensive side that gives the other team life? And, most of the time the Phillies end up losing those games. And you would think, hey, well, if that's true, then maybe the Yankees end up losing the game. But, the Phillies just cannot get the timely hits. I can't blame the bullpen for losing this game. They had this Phillies team in there as much as possible. The Phillies had plenty of chances to score runs. They were walked 11 times. 11 times. That's just as sloppy as errors. We talk about errors all the damn time. Walks are errors for pitchers. That's what it is. The Yankees were trying to hand you the game. Now, I'm not going to tell you the season's over. I'm not going to tell you that everything they did before this just means they absolutely blow. But to some degree, I knew this was coming, right? I did say pump the brakes. They still are who they are. They still make mistakes constantly. They still put themselves in horrendous spots majority of the time. Like, that is still true. So there is reality that's going to come back a bit. But also, you're playing a Braves team that is not very solid. And that's what you have waiting for you. Your bullpen's depleted. And you're going with Matt Moore, and then you have Vince Velasquez, and unfortunately, I'm going to the game where Vinny V, I'm going to have a good time. I'm taking my fiance and all, but I'm saying, unfortunately, the game that I'm going to take her to, it's Vinny V on the bump. That's not going to stop me, though, from going to Citizens Bank Park, enjoying the date night, enjoying, the ballpark. I have not been to a Phillies game since the COVID reopened and whatnot, since they have reopened from the COVID protocols and all. So, I am looking forward to it. But, yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see the response to this team. Facing adversity, are you going to let it snowball into disgust where we can't believe it? Or is it going to be a bounce-back moment? I would have been all right with a split. You split this and there's still some sort of swagger involved. You get swept and it kills momentum. No doubt about it. This was a momentum killer. Because these games Yeah, they were there. I mean, they were there. It's not as if, they were not in your grasp. They were in your grasp. And you did not execute good enough when you had plenty of chances. Now, I do see some Phillies optimism out there where they look at it this way. Think about how many times they had that chance to get that timely hit. Think about how many times they had runners on base. Now, maybe that's a product of the poor pitching on the other side or a little bit of presence at the plate, understanding the moment, working good counts. Well, I think it's more the Yankees pitching just absolutely sucked today. But they were getting themselves in those spots. And even in yesterday's game against the Yankees, they had so many chances. Is that the positive? They're doing something right if there's traffic along the base paths this consistent. Yeah, to a degree. But, it's not as if this team does this all year long through 90-plus games at this point. It's just the last couple of games against the Yankees that really stands out. But it's not something that they've done forever, for the entire season, and there's a reason why that is. So it's just crazy that this team does it in so many different ways and hurts us so much. What doesn't hurt you, though, is DraftKings Sportsbook. They are not only my favorite sportsbook, but America's top-rated sportsbook. Speaking of America, our top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold, and DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for my listeners. Listen to this great offer. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Brodes when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code Brodes to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. So Bryce Harper ended up taking a foul ball to the top of his foot, and it was a mean one, no doubt about it. You could tell that he was in some serious pain. I did sense some tension from the Yankees fan that was not thrilled during that at-bat. He was taking his time, but I thought it was pretty damn clear that he fouled that ball off pretty solid, and there was some serious contact to the foot right underneath of that guard and right over his cleat. So, it was limping around, and now you're hearing Joe Girardi speak after the game. There's going to be precautionary measures. And, it's not Bryce Harper's fault, but I just feel all season long that's what we're dealing with this guy. Whether it's dehydration, whether it's this, whether it's that. Now, look, when you get hit with a 97-mile-per-hour fastball in the wrist close to the face, that is something that is not his fault. It just happens. It's the nature of baseball that you get hit with the pitch and, things will knock you out for some time. But who knows? I'm just afraid knowing this franchise, maybe he doesn't play and maybe they give him some time off and he needs some rest. No, we need to win baseball games. This team is back to 500, which is basically their identity. They are a high and low baseball team that figures out a way to complete a season going basically 500 every single season with this core that they've had for a handful of years now, and it's just hard to watch. I'm getting sick and tired of it. They're 47-47, and here we go. They are a basic 500 baseball team again. It's just crushing. It is. It's crushing, and it's toying with me. And now I'm just nervous for what this means for Bryce Harper because I've seen them go through this. No, I heard, and when I say I see them go through this, I'm just referencing something happens to Bryce, and they give him some time, and they allow him to, take a couple days off. Like, there's no time for that. You want to make a push? You want to make a push against the Mets? There's no time for that. You can't even fucking win with him in the lineup at times when you should. I mean, think about how much of a disaster it's going to be with the other way around. But I heard Jason Stark today speak to Tyrone Johnson, who was covering for Mikey Miss on 97.5 The Fanatic, and he's saying what the Phillies are doing with Zach Eflin and the way they're trying to word what's going on, they're not making it real. Like, they're not telling you how it is. They're trying to sugarcoat what's going on here. He's had these injuries. He's had this history with the knee problem dating back basically 5 years now. What they're trying to tell you and what reality of the situation is probably different. So, just something to keep in mind. And I said that even at the time when the Zach Eflin news dropped. Be aware okay, just know that my gut feeling told me that this is probably going to be a little bit more significant than they're leading on, and they don't want you to feel even more nervous than we already should, knowing that you already need pitching help to begin with. And now, first off, Aaron Nola sucks this year. Now Zach Eflin is banged up. You're relying on Matt Moore and Vince Velasquez with a healthy Nola and a healthy Eflin. Even with Nola playing this poorly, you still needed to try and land a guy. And here people are excited about fucking Cole Hamels. Like, Cole Hamels is going to come in and shred everyone to pieces. I mean, there's a reason why he's out there. And I apologize. My hair is going all over the place. This is what happens when you get a haircut and you're working with the samurai, which is the half bun and then the half flow. Because I got my haircut, sometimes my sides aren't as long as they were about a week ago. And sometimes they come out. So, not that anybody's too worried about my lettuce. And if you're listening to this on the audio podcast, you don't even see that. And by the way, you can find Sports Talk with Brodes or any Brodes media show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, any podcasting platform. Just search either Sports Talk with Brodes, and it would be greatly appreciated if you can leave a 5-star rating and a review as well on that platform specifically, or search Brodes Media. But anyway, I was talking about my hair. Don't know where I was going before that, and I don't know if it matters. What does matter, though, is the Anytime Hotline. We have Anytime Hotline calls. We have some text messages. Let's fire this bad boy off.
Yo, what's up, bros? Zach again. Man, just what a sloppy game from the Phillies. I mean, they were in it, which I'm happy about that they were at least in it to the end, but to me what the biggest problem was with runners in scoring position. You had the one big hit by Luke Williams with runners on, but besides that, they really just couldn't cash in when they had runners on second and third base. So it's kind of frustrating just because they got to that point, they got on the bases, but they just couldn't get them in a lot of the time. So, like I said, I don't know, just a little frustrated.
Yeah, I'm frustrated too. I can't go with the mentality of I'm happy that they were at least involved. I'm not saying, when I say this, I'm not coming at you, the individual. I'm talking about more from a baseball perspective. When I say loser, I'm talking about like the franchise and loser mentality that way. If that's where this franchise is and they are okay with just, we were competitive at the end of a series in New York when we're fighting with the New York Mets in our own division, that would be a loser mentality from a baseball perspective, and I can't have that. So there's no way, shape, or form anything in my eyes is okay with this because the Phillies lost this game on their own. They pissed this game away. I can't have that. You're going to lose. I mean, this is basic baseball 101 logic and something that you say every year, right? When you think about 162, you're going to win 60, you're going to lose 60. What do you do with the rest of those games? That's the reality of the situation. So you're going to lose a lot of baseball games. I'm okay with losing baseball games. It's a thing. It's reality, okay? It's just how the game works. That's not the problem, though. The problem is when you put yourself in a position, or if the other team consistently puts you on base and allows you to have those opportunities, and you are climbing into your shell and you're coming up small and you're not delivering, that's unacceptable to me. That's you losing the game because you're not executing right. Sometimes the other team's the better team. Sometimes the other team just does the little things right on that given night. I gotcha. But there's also times where you are the problem yourself. Self-inflicted wounds. And it happens way too much. And when it happens over and over and over and over again, it reaches a new level of annoying. It reaches a new level of unacceptable. It's like, get your head out of your ass. That's what it is. Get your head out of your ass. Be better. It's ridiculous.
That looked like a dead club to me. I mean, 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position. Spencer Howard didn't even threw the ball pretty well. And our bullpen did well except Naris. But even he threw the ball decently well. But 1 for 14 with your offense, you had second and third, 1 out. JT Realmuto, one of your best hitters. Nope. Swinging at why does every player swing at low sliders all of a sudden? We're just swinging and missing at low sliders. You know they're going there. and you're swinging and missing. Brad Miller and Didi Gregorius back-to-back, you pitch a ball outside, they're not going to hit it. They're dead pull hitters. They're not going to hit it. So, switch something up in this lineup or do something. Because we better take 3 or 4 and sweep the Atlanta Braves. We want to have a chance.
I'll tell you why you swing at the sliders, because it's coming at you and you think it's going to be a fastball, and before you know it, it's how many feet off the dish, and it's not easy, right? I mean, it's a very difficult thing. But, yeah, JT Realmuto coming up with bases loaded. Well, that ended up having that was when Nelson threw the pitch in the dirt that scored the tying run and make it 5-5. But he had an ugly at-bat there. And, yeah, it's definitely tough right now. In terms of the bullpen, you brought up Neris. You know, the pitch to Stanton wasn't a bad pitch, but the shift was on, and that definitely allowed the ball to go through easier. It wouldn't have happened if Segura was in the right spot, but sometimes that's just a managerial decision that ends up working 99% of the time, didn't work in that moment. And, you know, I'm not criticizing Stanton for it. That doesn't devalue what Stanton did. That's a part of the game, poking the ball and putting it out in play, and that was very beneficial for them. I didn't think Neris threw the ball horrendously until that, you know, Odor one was definitely brutal, and that was a painful bomb. That thing was crushed, man. Did you see the way that he celebrated anew instantly the second that thing left his bat? He was all fired up and letting his emotions fly, and he admired it, and I don't blame him for 1 second for admiring that type of pop coming off the bat. You know, with Sanchez, you know, I talked about him coming after Spencer Howard after Howard got yanked, and he started out very strong, 2 strikeouts, and then poof, there goes any sort of legitimate pitching. He just got annihilated from there, and it was tough. It was tough to watch.
Well, Brodes, the Phillies get swept by the Yankees, but that's all right because they're the best team in baseball the month of July. And, you know, I'm really liking what I'm seeing from this team right now. We got a lot of talent, and I'm hoping, you know, we can get up in first place and be ahead of the Mets. But I do think that the way we're seeing this team play right now, you think we have a shot at making the playoffs this year and ending our long-ass playoff drought. What are your thoughts on this team and this team going forward, possibly making the playoffs? Do you think there's a chance of that?
Well, of course there's a chance because the division is just absolutely horrendous. But I'm a little baffled with the tone of your call because you start off saying that you know, like, hey, they got swept, but it's okay. This team, you know, I'm optimistic about this team. I got nothing for you in regards to that. I said it even during their 4 series that they won. There's still the reality of I've seen this team play before the 4 series, and they were miserable. There's something to that. It doesn't go poof and go away. That's still part of their identity, and it's the way that they play the game. For a large majority of the first half, that's who they were. So why would I think it would be different? You know, like maybe it would be a little bit better, but there would still be all of those problems that show its ugly head as you play more games in the second half. Do they have a chance to win the division? Yeah, probably because of how bad the Mets are. They're banged up. Jacob deGrom, Francisco Lindor, their offensive numbers were miserable throughout the season to this point. Like, they haven't had the most production in the world in that area. Their bullpen has struggled since May. It's just not something that they could consistently rely on. And the Braves' injuries, Acuna, I mean, the list goes on and on. We've been talking about it for so damn long now. So, yeah, to answer your question, can they? Sure. Are they really, truly a playoff baseball team? Absolutely not. Oh, no. They're not even sniffing this conversation in any other division in baseball, yet they are now based off of circumstances. So, yes, they can. Are they really a playoff team, though? No, they're not really a playoff team. Here's a text message from Adam. Hey, Brodes, do you think there's a chance the Phillies will seriously pursue a deal for Craig Kimbrell, Buxton, or Marte? Or do you think they go completely in a different direction? I could see both, Adam. I could see both. You know, it's not ironic that their names are tied to Craig Kimbrell and their names are tied to Marte. I think Dave Dombrowski's willing to go in either direction based off of what the other team wants, what they'd be having to give up, what they'd be willing to give up, what the other team is asking for in the asking price. I'm sure Dave Dombrowski is looking at both options, making phone calls. This is a real baseball guy. This isn't Matt Klentak. This is someone who understands value, understands creativity, understands directions that you can go in, and I believe both are on the table. So you mentioned the Buxton one's interesting because of what he can be when he's healthy, but are you going to make a push for a guy that has not been able to historically stay healthy? It's a very big concern, but it's a gamble, and if it ends up paying off and he is healthy, did you just land someone who is possibly a stud? But they're tied to all these players, so they can go in either direction. This text message is from a no-namer. Boys are coming home for 8. Let's get these couple games back. Nice and simple, to the point. Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how they respond because that is going to be a difference maker on how we feel here. This series coming up against the Braves is a mandatory win. No joke. You have to get the job done. With that said, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Sports Talk with Brodes, and I will see you next time.